Hello, everyone. It's Gail Scott-Key of Gail Scott-Key's Entertainment Now with my guest co-host, Geoff Sandin. And we are so excited because tonight we are going to dive into the extraordinary life and career of music producer Charles Wallert. Charles has crafted unforgettable sounds for multi-Grammy winning artists like Dionne Warwick. Ooh, remember I interviewed her, had the honor, so exciting. George Benson, O.C. Smith, and the main ingredient. Beyond the studio, he's crossed paths with legends from Muhammad Ali to Frank Sinatra and remains a close friend to iconic sports champion Joe Namath. Charles' journey intertwines in the glimmers of New York City life, where he was a partner in the famed Bachelor's 3 nightclub, with personal triumphs and spiritual transformation that have shaped his music and life philosophy. Tonight, he's embarking on a new chapter, composing a musical score for an upcoming film. So let's get to know the man behind the music and sports connections. Charles, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Gail and Jeff, for having me, and thank you for those very kind words.
Oh, it is our pleasure. And we're going to get right into it because there's so much to cover with you. And I'm so excited. To start, what first inspired your deep love for music? And how did you find yourself producing and composing rather, for such legendary artists? Because I remember I had Dionne Warwick on my show, and oh my goodness, that made me like shake. How did it make you feel?
It's just part of everyday life. You know, when you connect on that bond of your love for music, it transcends all that celebrity stuff and whatever else may be. It's the music, and kindred spirits know that. But basically, I'm sure I was born with that. I'm sure that was my gift. And I remember my father getting a reel-to-reel tape recorder. I have a good memory. Uh, Sometimes I wish I didn't, but 99% of the times I'm grateful I do. And he had a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I would sing into it and try to write songs. I was always interested in putting together rhymes and songs. And when I was 22 months old, my mother would take me to the ice cream parlor, and I would imitate Johnny Ray singing "Cry," which I would see on television, and he was very animated. And the teenage girls would, you'd have those individual jukeboxes at the tables, and they'd keep putting nickels in for me to do that. So that might have been an incentive. And I wanted to play guitar because Elvis was an influence on me as a child. And I did. So I read music and played guitar before I read English. And my first paying job was imitating Elvis at age 7. I got $20, which was pretty good back those days.
Wow.
Awesome. Hey,
and
Charles. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say, Charles, we all know breaking into the music industry can be tough. So, what challenges did you face early on? How did you stay motivated? And most specifically, tell us a little bit or specifically about beach music.
Okay, well, when I approach something, when I get the feeling, and this is what I want to pass on to young people as well, it's what you feel. Don't go with anybody else's opinion. You know, actuarial tables when they quote odds, 1 in 10, 1 in 5, 1 in a billion, 1 in 3. Did you ever hear anybody quoted an odd by saying zero chance? Never. It's one. You could be that one. So it kind of motivated me, and I'm the type of person that if you tell me no, okay, you're probably going to be the one that's going to be wrong. And when I got into the music business, it was better in terms of there was a lot of independent companies that were making great music, so it was more music driven. And I listen. I can't tell you what my nickname for A&R people are, but it begins with an A, and it's an R. But so I just followed my own path. I never thought about the obstacles. I thought about it was a learning experience, and I would keep going. How I found out about this thing, beach music, prior to I had taken 5 years off, which I didn't do intentionally. I was going through a divorce, and I saw my daughters on the weekends, and I was going through some changes. I always said, "Yeah, I'll get back in the studio. I'll get back in the studio." And I had a very bad accident, and I was in traction, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't move for a month, and I knew I had to get back in the studio, and I called O.C. Smith from the hospital, and we started on the What You Gonna Do album, which was a tremendous hit for us. What You Gonna Do tied Little Green Apples for 17 weeks on the Billboard charts. Did my cover of First, Last, and Everything, which I produced as a romantic ballad, wrote some words in front. I'll never forget Barry White said to me, he said, I like that. And the third single was a song called Brenda, which I wrote from a true experience. And was recovering from an accident, reuniting with a person I hadn't seen in a while, and it gave me a new love for life. But being a single man at that time again, and hanging around with the people I did, and just I didn't want to call a song by a lady's name. I said, "Wow, that's like forever." So I was at a function with my good friend, God rest his soul, Vaughn Harper from the Quiet Storm, and I was telling him about it. I said, I'm just hung up. I said, I got the song, and I want to call it this, and that would be the hook. And Robert Bell's wife, Catherine, God rest her soul,
Yes.
she heard the conversation, and she said to me, Charles, we had a song called Joanna, was our biggest hit 2 years ago. So I said, you know what? Okay, that was a sign. And Joanna was actually about a waitress that the guy saw. So anyway, I did it, and the song was on the Billboard charts for about 12 weeks. So the whole album charted on the Billboard charts about 40 weeks, and we get ready to do another album. And then I started getting all the stuff, all these orders and inquiries from Myrtle Beach and this beach music. I thought it was Coney Island, I'm in New York City. And then I found out what it was. Beach music was when the Caucasian kids in the South, in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia Beach, went to the beach. Radio was segregated then, it was separate. But they heard Motown, the sound of Philadelphia, and even years before that in the 50s, prior to that. But basically, the real hub of what I'm talking about is the Motown Philly sound. And they kept this thing alive. So when they went back home, they didn't say R&B, black music, they said beach music. So I got a whole education about that. And Brenda, it's still today, 4 decades later, is the number one classic of all time. It's transcended jazz, pop, country, beach music, R&B, classic soul. And my good friend Steve Maglio, who does a Sinatra show in the Carnegie Club and at a place called the Cutting Room, October 24th, total surprise to me. He just told me a couple of days ago that they're doing a big band arrangement of the song Brenda live. So I'm going to get a video of that, and I'll share it. I'll share it with you. So that's what got me into beach music, and I this passion, this thing that we had. You see, down there they kept the soul alive. They kept the real good songs, melody, real strings, my kind of stuff. So after we there for a while, and I just was doing the music I'm doing, but I kind of stepped away from the scene. And about a year or two ago, my good buddy Michael Roberts said, "Hey, look, we need you. We got this beach music TV thing. We need you. We need each other to help make this go. Just make people aware of it, what it is. Because if you say beach music, it's confusing. So part of our job is to explain it. And then when people listen to the music, they know what it is and put a branding on it. And Michael and I are doing that with a lot of other great people involved all over the world. And the music will speak for itself, and it's good that it catches on, and we need it now today. It's a very healing, loving kind of music.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
When I was excuse me, when I was a kid, how we would go to the Brooklyn Fox and see the shows. There were all sorts of artists together. There was no
Mm.
this artist, that artist. This this type of music, no matter what your political beliefs are, your ethnic background, you'll like it because I think we all want to feel love and express it, and this will help you do it.
Love it.
That's
Yeah, and we know you've worked with some of the largest names out there. Is there one session or collaboration that just really stands out as unforgettable?
Um, there's a lot of good ones. O.C. Smith, almost everyone. He would one take. I'd have to stop him. But he was just amazing. The What You Gonna Do session, the Criterion sessions, which the Bee Gees turned me on to that studio in Miami, is where we sang the vocals for Brenda, First, Last, and Everything. George Benson when we did New York City, uh, he did a scat on the vocal. 3 months later, he went back and matched the guitar to the scat. Well, and I was blown away. And he said he never did it before. A lot of good ones, some funny ones with the main ingredient because Cuba Senior was a real character. Um, a lot of great ones, and I remember every single detail of every one. Believe me, I do.
Charles, your partnership with George Benson is, of course, iconic. So, can you share how that relationship formed and what it meant to you?
Well, I got to go back even before it was a relationship in form, in mind that I guess it
Mm-hmm.
always was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was I was having dinner with Muhammad Ali, and he had just finished doing the movie The Greatest. So I said, "Who did the soundtrack?" And he was told, "Oh man, George Benson. He got this beautiful song." I was okay, and everybody loved the song, "The Greatest Love of All," which was not a big hit at that time, as big as George was doing at the time, because it was two labels. Arista had the soundtrack, Warner Brothers had George, and neither one of them promoted that. But everybody loved that song. We know the history where it went to. So I was in London, and I heard "In Your Eyes" was a great song, and I loved that
Mm-hmm.
song. And I wrote a song called "Meant to Be in Love," and I said, "Who could sing that song?" And I said, "George Benson. George Benson could sing that song," which I never met George Benson, had no contact with him. As it turns out, from the OC "What You Gonna Do" album, George O.C. Smith, like amongst everybody, was loved and revered by the top singers and artists in the world. George heard, it was at a Sunday, had a bunch of people over the house, and he heard OC sing "What You Gonna Do," and he said, "Man, that's OC Smith, one of my favorite singers. Listen to that. Who did that record?" Just so happens, person that was with him knew me. He says, "I'll get Charles on the phone right now," and he did. That was a Sunday. George invited me to his home on Thursday. That's 4 decades later. He took me. There was
Wow.
30 people in the house. He took me in the back. That was it. That was it.
Oh my goodness. I know you've spent times with a lot of giants like Muhammad Ali, and truth be known, Kalila Camacho Ali, Dr. Kalila Camacho
Yes.
Ali. I had her on my show, and I never forgot the fact that she said that she was hosting a party, and one of your faves happened to walk in, and that was Elvis. He was
Oh yeah.
there at their home. And you also were mentioning your relationship with Frank Sinatra and remain good friends, especially with Joe Namath,
Oh,
who we
that's my
send our
brother.
love to. Yes, he's
That's my
iconic.
brother.
And I remember growing up with him, I'm sure Jeff as well, and just the good nature that he had. So I'm not surprised with the synergy that you both have. What lessons, though, have those legendary friendships taught you that we can thrive from?
Well, like attracts like, um, and the good feeling and the way we were brought up, they were good people, and we love what we do, and we appreciated. We weren't about what we do. Who we are is who we are, and we like people and love people, and that remains. So I saw these big icons, which to me, the way I was raised, they're my friends. Anybody would want to hang out with them. They had to pick me, really. But to answer Jeff's question and your question, one session comes to mind. When I first produced George, George is one of the greatest impressionists you will ever see. He can imitate anybody you name, male, female. But when I first produced him, he's got all these voices inside of him. So to get the cut, we're doing the album, and he'd give me five vocals and go upstairs and say, "Okay, well, you figure it out." And then, I got to splice. And so I said, "No, we're going to do a live composite." And one day I came to his house, and he's playing this song on his guitar and singing. I said, "George, we got to put this on the album. Who wrote it?" He says, "Why, I wrote the music and I sent it to the Dan Hill, and he put the lyrics." And I said, "George, no, we're doing this." So I got my arranger on a cassette and I arranged the song. And when we were about to record the vocal, I said, "This is going to be a problem. He's going to overthink this or overfeel it, whatever. And I just want it raw." So I told him I was coming to the house at 9 o'clock to do the vocal. He went to sleep. I woke him up at midnight, told him, "Come on down." He didn't know what have a cup of coffee. And he just, he couldn't overthink it. He just poured his heart out, cried, had tears in his eyes. He tells that story to everybody. And the song is the one for me, and everybody says it's his best vocal. It's beautiful. I no guitar playing, no background vocals, just him and the strings.
Wow. Wow.
And Charles, I know Gail and I might know this, but can you tell us the unique moment you orchestrated the meeting between George Benson and Joe Namath? What really inspired what really inspired that
Yeah.
connection?
Well, I knew Joe before. I knew Joe many years before I met George, about 17 years before. And Joe always liked George because George was from Pittsburgh, Joe from Beaver Falls, close by, but Joe loved his music, the guitar playing. And then, of course, when George came out with On Broadway, come on, that was Joe's theme song, Broadway Joe.
Yeah.
So when I got with George, I told him many years later that Joe really liked him. And he said, "Oh man, I like that guy. He predicted it. He loved Joe." Well, they grew up about 50 miles away from each other, exactly the same age, never met. Never met. And naturally then I had said, "Well, they kept messages back and forth to me. Oh, I love this, I love that." And it turned out it worked out where we were going to be in the same place. Joe was at his home in Florida. George was coming to Florida, and I arranged it. You have an iconic photo, and it was the most fun for me. I got to tell you, after watching how the fans reacted to each of them reacting to each other was hilarious. They were like, in awe of each other. It was beautiful.
Aw.
And Joe enjoyed that show so much. He said, "Charlie, this is one of the best times I've ever had." But when George did On Broadway, some of the people saw Joe in the audience and said, "Hey, they're playing your song." So that's a great friendship till this day. I
Aw.
was happy to be the conduit for that. I like to make people happy like that. I really do.
Well, you do make people happy, and meeting you and getting to know you has just been such an experience for me because you are just a delight. So I'm not surprised that your synergy helped coordinate that relationship. So we know you on the music side, Charles, but what about on the business side? And I'm talking specifically about being a partner in the legendary Bachelor's 3 nightclub. And that placed you at the heart of New York's vibrant nightlife, I'm sure. So what was the experience like and how did it influence you?
Well, there was some controversy with Joe after he won the Super Bowl, and they wanted him to sell the club, and he said no. And he quit football. And they said, "Oh, we kind of overplayed our hand," and there was nothing really there. I spoke to the investigators and the judge many years later. So they came to a deal because his main thing is he wanted to be in the club, that he could be there, but he would sell his interests, quote unquote. Uh, and I was not yet 21, so I had to wait to be on the license. But in the meantime, I was in the general manager host sort of thing, that didn't require being on the liquor license till I became 21. And I can tell you, we took it all in stride back then. When the astronauts were going to the moon, it's on the transcript, they asked what was going on with Joe Namath and Bachelor's 3. And anybody that was there, a lot of music people came in, the Fifth Dimension and Tom Jones and everybody, and Frank Sinatra. And that's what I really loved about it. But you know what? We had celebrities and we had secretaries from the Bronx that came in every week, and everybody was treated the same. It was just a great, great experience. And we had the Playboy Bunnies would come in, the Gaslight Girls, all the airlines, all the modeling agencies. So everybody kind of mingled in a really nice way, and it was a nice place to be in.
I appreciate all of that. And through it all, I understand that spiritually, you had an awakening, if you will, because you've endured fame, great success, as well as deep personal trials, as we all do. But how has your spiritual journey helped you navigate the highs and lows of it all, being in this business?
Well, being in life is to have a certainty that we are created by a power for good. We have free will. Sometimes things that happen to us happen because of our unconscious. And O.C. Smith was the one that showed me the way. When I first met him and I saw his transformation in metaphysics, and I started studying with Dr. Stuart Grayson, and it led me to be introspective, change my way about certain things. But yet it was always there, like it's always there in all of us. And then very recently, I happened to be blessed to find somebody that I heard, and I heard a process, a self hypnosis thing, a meditation on the bus traveling, and it didn't have a name. It had the name of the site. I couldn't find it anymore. Couldn't find who it was. And then 8 years later, I heard from this person and I recognized the voice, and his name is Joseph Clough, Clough. He's an amazing man. And you know, like you work with a trainer for whatever,
Mhm.
physical. So I work with Joseph and the Mind Mastery Group and all of that. It's just good people, sincere people that not only want to help us, but help ourselves to help everyone around to contribute. So it's got me through. I think my family definitely shaped that background. But being a creative person, if you're really into the creative person, then you're touched by the creator, or we all are touched by the creator, but you're more in
Mhm.
tune because you're open for it. It's like a room that has something in it and anybody could go in, but it's the one that opens the door that's going to benefit from it.
Mhm.
And Charles, hopefully this doesn't sound rhetorical, um, but do you feel like your trials have added an emotional depth or perspective to your music compositions?
Oh, it adds to life. Of course it does. But I don't. If I have to put that into music, it's from a healing point of view, not from a, oh my, like the country songs, crying in your beer. Like I had told Gail in an interview I did with Natasha Madison on Tash Talk. They asked me, what do you do in music? What is your objective? And I said for a hit. And there was like silence, like, well, doesn't everybody want to do that? But hit to me is HIT, heal, inspire, and transform. And that's
Mhm.
what I want to do with my music and make people happy. So I don't do any sad songs. I'll do songs that are uplifting, or things that, can, a song like I did with O.C. Smith, understand, to always have faith. But I don't say even love songs anymore. Yeah, they are love songs, but there's romance. And about a year and a half ago, I learned there's a big difference between love and romance. They could be the same, but they're not usually. And I
What's the
think what we,
difference?
well, romance is a mode. It's something we go through, the dinner, the going out, and love is a deeper level. Like I said, they could be both. Love needs all three tenses. It needs a past, it needs a present, and a future. Romance can involve different people. If you're addicted to romance, you might always be pursuing it, and that'll change. But romantic music always puts you in a good frame of mind, and it does evoke the spirit of love in you. So I like to call that my music romantic love songs. Sure, of course,
Aw,
but they
see,
definitely
I'm
are
gonna let my husband
romantic.
know that. I'm gonna give him an education, Charles. I'll let him know. You've shared some good news with me that I am hoping you'll be able to elaborate a little bit more here because I'm so excited for you. And I'm talking about you're going to be composing a musical score for an upcoming film. And I'm just curious if you can elaborate on it in
Sure.
your audience. What can they expect from this new work, and how does writing for film compare to your previous projects?
Well, it's really easier for me because don't forget, I have to write a song out of a concept, out of something totally subjective. When I get a piece of paper, or I could do a score or a theme for a movie, I have to basically, if you listen to my songs, they're basically mini movies in 3.5 minutes. So if I have more time to express on that, but let me get back to how the business has changed now, because we're also
Mhm.
doing my documentary, music and memoir, and a book. So it ties in. That's going to lead to some film things, and we do have some things as well. But because of there's a lot of people that had dreams about being in the business, because of the corporate this and that, they couldn't. They went to be successful in other businesses, and now they're at a point where it's wide open. Now you have streaming platforms, you have ways to get music if you work with professionals in that field. every business needs financial, creative, and the distribution. So if people get the right people, financial people, the right creative people, they have a good chance of anybody of being successful. Not only that, really enjoying their life. So there's a lot of people now and doing sponsorship. Sponsors have learned, look, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars to advertise for these stadiums for 3, 4 years. Why? They get the benefit of that. So there's a group of people. And Dr. Dan Ricciardi, who always wanted to be in music. I mean, he was in the studio with John Lennon and he grew up with Jimmy Iovine, but he became a doctor. And he never lost that love. And he always attracted things like that. He's got a great ear and a good eye for film. So he's putting together a company now with another doctor called Jack Aiella. And he got this wonderful young man, Gregory Lafrano, who is in video and does screenplays. So they put this wonderful story together about Island of Knowledge, about a medical school in Grenada. It's got humor in it. It's got funny, and they reached out to me, which I was flattered to do, because of the human element involved, and how, again, going against odds and becoming successful. So I admire people like that, and they're also going to be involved with some music projects with me, with Nikki Richards and Daryl Tukes doing a song called "One Last Kiss," which, wow, this is a killer song. And Nikki and Daryl have "My World Revolves Around You" on my new Beach Music Gems album. So I'm excited. My mother always said, God bless her, I could see her saying it to me now, that she says, you're going to do a movie one day, and no matter what you've accomplished, this is going to put you on another path. And I love it. I love it because I know I can add to it. I can add to what they're trying to say. And then you get the whole sense. Not only that, if you do a song and combine it with a movie, video, miniseries, you got it forever now, especially with YouTube. I can tell you that other than Saturday Night Fever and The Bodyguard, they never worked the soundtracks with the music. The motion picture division and the music division next, they didn't even talk to each other. And again, the power of music and combining it with film. Robert Stigwood, RSO organization, had the Bee Gees. That was their label. He was their manager. They went to them and said they want a soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever. So Barry Gibb gave them a ballad. They said, well, this is, a disco dance thing. We don't have a scene for that. He said, write one. That song was How Deep Is Your Love? Probably their most recognized song, Academy Award winner, one of the most beautiful songs in history as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, Charles.
I wanted to hear that song. I think now we're going to put that song in. See? I wasn't expecting that. I'm sorry, Geoff. Go ahead.
And Charles, I think you alluded to it a little bit, but I'll ask the question again. Looking back on your impressive career in life, what legacy do you hope and want to leave behind for future artists and music lovers?
Well, first, I want to leave one for my grandchildren and generations to come, that I never compromise my integrity in my work. That something to be proud of, something that you never have to cringe and say I did it for the money or I did that. So what I want to, it's about the fifth or sixth year I mentor for the Grammys, and I chaired the producers panel for Grammys in school. What I tell the people, forget all that glitz and stuff like that. If you're in this for that or fame or whatever outside motivation other than to express your true sincerity, you're in for the wrong reason. So I'd say be true to yourself. Surround yourself with the best people, emotionally, technically, and everything like that.
Love it.
And just follow that. Start with the song. And you don't have to write everything yourself. I only write 25%, maybe 30 of the stuff I produce. I don't have to write it. I got to feel it. I work with a lot of great writers. So once a song grabs me, I put on my producer's hat and the same thing comes out.
It's funny. I wanted to park on two things that you mentioned, because when I had a lot of artists come on, the biggest thing that I heard was because, as you just mentioned, the new age, in YouTube, you can see a lot of artists, they come together, and as opposed, it's almost like they skip something, but they'll also use snippets of music of legendary artists, composers, directors. And there was there was this rift, if you will, an underground rift, because it was you being in the studio doing the hard work and then sampling it and putting it and using it through AI, and it spits out something else other than the intent of what it was. Have you ever personally have endured that? Any of your music happened? Has that ever happened to you that you know of?
Oh yeah, it happened to me not with AI, but years ago before YouTube, which would help me. The song I had, "The Rock," which I was the first independent producer signed to RSO Records at the height of Saturday Night Fever, and I didn't know what I was doing. I did an R&B song, "The Rock." They said there was a dance, and I didn't realize that it changed dancing because not everybody could be John Travolta. So this was a simple R&B funky tune called "The Rock," and Michael Jackson happened to see it hear it in the club one time, and he inspired him to do "Rock with You." But this group sampled it in France, never released it in the U.S., and called it "Supermen Lovers," and have 51 million views on it. And I did was not aware of it. We made a small settlement years down the road, not a fraction of what the song generated millions. But to show you how, when your work is good, very recently, right now, a young artist in the UK, Jessica Winter, she's got a wonderful producer, Stefan Storm, he's in Sweden, and they contacted me, and they didn't want to use their song. They did investigations, and they said, "Yo, yours is the original. We want to use your hook." We made a very great deal, and it's called "Feel So Good." Feel good tonight. Feel so good. Excellent. So you see, it turns around. And the way I took it, okay, I could have spent that millions of dollars, whatever, who knows what was going on in my life, but it just gave me reinforcement that, yeah, I make major hits because I touch people. I know I share my feelings, and there's enough people out there that want to share with me.
It's definitely the
And
truth.
another thing about fighting for integrity,
Mm.
if you buy a building, own a piece of art, that stays in your family forever, unless they dispose of it the way they want to, or lease it, or whatever. Not so with music. It's 50 years after your life. My good friend and colleague Mark Goldstein is starting a major program now that you're going to hear about. Every artist is getting on board to extend that. That is yours to designate, not that it could just be taken away at any time for your grandchildren, especially now, the way the figures have changed so much for remuneration for copyrights. And we'll do so. Why should that just be, to somebody else? So Mark Goldstein is doing that, and that's a cause I support big time.
Oh, wow. Well,
And also,
yeah.
uh,
Go ahead. No, 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 go ahead.
yeah, I just you provoking thing to talk about how it's time. 3 decades ago, we did sort of an infomercial little TV thing with O.C. Smith with all his greatest hits in a nightclub setting and all of that, and we had the footage, and I remember every instant. I could tell you where I ate at, this and that. I couldn't remember the two guys' names that did it. One of them I was close to. I went to his wedding. Couldn't remember his name. I said, "Well, it'll come to me." The next day, he messaged me on Facebook. His name is Paul Allen. He's won Emmys since, and we're together again. So he's going to be working on some film projects as well. He's a brilliant, brilliant man, a good man. And what happened, he had moved out to LA, and he was in touch with OC. And then OC passed. So it was meant for us to get together at this time. And again, a good feeling that we had for each other. People come into your lives at certain times when it's meant to maximize, and that's your energy determines that. So I feel that my energy now is determining who comes in, but also when you move forward, it comes with a lot of goodbyes too. Some people
Absolutely.
just don't fit. God bless them. They got their
Yeah.
uh, adventure. I don't say journey. I say adventure.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's very, very true. And one of the artists who came into my life, Septimius is the Great, who won Grammy, and knowing that you're in with the Grammys, my question has always been this, because with it coming up, being on the board, how does one get involved in that aspect of the music? Because judging your peers and lifting up and having those nominations, can you break that down for us and how that's running in the concept today with the new music and such? How do you decipher which gets the thumbs up, just all of the glitz and glamour behind the scenes of that, if you
Me
could.
being me being a voting member. Well,
Yes,
you
yeah.
pick your categories. They give you can't vote in every category, so you pick your categories, um, and then you. I'm an experienced person. I go by what I know. I may be because the rules are now to be maintain a voting member. You have to do something every 5 years. So there's a lot of veteran producers that are multi-Grammy winners that don't vote anymore. I think I know I got a lifetime voting membership and a certificate of recognition. So I had that experience. A lot of times it's a popularity contest, but to be a voting member, you have to go through rigid qualifications. So for me, again, I just go by what I know is quality. What's the vocal performance if it's vocal? What do I hear in the whole recording? Um, all the artistry. That's when I first got into the academy many decades ago. They said that sales have nothing to do with it, and you weren't allowed to advertise. Well, that's all changed now. But I still take that, just the real quality of it.
That's
And I'm a
awesome.
fan. So I would say, hey, there's something I'm a fan.
Um, Charles, we look forward to hearing, your new film score and witnessing the next chapter of your remarkable career. So, God bless you and love the work you're doing.
Oh,
Well, thank you. Listen to Beach Music Gems, Charles Wallert Beach Music Gems. It's all mid-tempo stuff. I'm known for ballads and all that. Well, this is like a moving ballad. It's what they used to call in the radio days 24-hour drive time music. You can put it on anytime. Beach Music Gems. And all the good things that, I'm not stopping. We're going to do this. It's something. It's not who I am. It is who I am. But somebody said, "Do you like your job?" I said, "Job, job." That's like asking a priest, does he like his job? Or this is my vocation. This is me.
Just what
so
you
we're
do.
gonna have a fun round. Oh, yes, exactly. This is what he does, and this is what we do. We're gonna have a fun round with you. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, Charles Warren, if you were to fix a dish because you like to cook, I'm sure, what
On
would you name
Sundays.
it? On Sundays, okay, on Sundays, we've got, all right, Jeff and I are going to be there on Sundays with you. What would the dish be called musically inspired, and what would it consist of?
Oh, no, consists of musically or food wise?
Food wise, but what would you
Okay.
call it after a song?
Okay. I'd have food wise. We start with a nice antipasto with some roasted peppers, provolone, reggiano, parmigiano, anchovies, assortment of hot peppers, supersada, and some nice Italian bread and red wine, followed by a dish of pasta. Preferably, my favorite is rigatoni, with some meatballs that would consist of pork, veal, and beef, sausage, some hot for the people like hot, some sweet for the people like, that. And I'd call it a melodic evening in Roma.
Oh my goodness.
And
I
Gail,
would call it Gail's going to be there with Jeff over at Charles. That's what I'm going to call it.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to call it, why did Gail mention this around dinner time when I can't eat it? So,
I'm
And I
all
have I have
talking.
photographic evidence of this for your
Yes, you
personal.
do.
Yes, I'll send it to you. I have it.
I
I have it.
love it.
When you're not composing and doing the most beautiful melodious music, what do you like to do in your own downtime for self? How do you take care of yourself?
Well, I do meditation a whole lot. I study with my mind mastery group, uh, which is really great people all over the world that like mine. I love sports, as you know, and especially football season.
Mhm.
Um, so I do that, and my little boy Coco, he's my love, my Pomeranian. He goes with me to the studio at every place. And so I like to do that. I like to just chill. I love good dinners and I love being around my friends and especially my music minded people and my family. That's the main thing, being with my daughters, my grandchildren. Um, that's it. And another thing, like, is you spark things about, there was a young man who was 15 years old, and he was a neighbor of George Benson, and his father took him to meet George Benson. He said he was wanted to be a guitar player, was quite good at the time, and George Benson told him, and I'm being modest. I'm trying to be modest about this. He said, if you want to be in this business, there's one guy you got to meet, and he said that's Charles Wallert. Well, he met me. I mentored him creatively, and then when I had Wave Entertainment, that was the first job he had as an intern. And I said, don't ever even think about the business side. This is so you're going to see how it works, state of creativity. Well, his name is Hanan Rubenstein, and he went on to play with Alicia Keys. Everybody's an A-list guitar player, but his love was engineering. And Hanan did the soundtrack for Mean Girls 2. And Hanan now, I worked at his studio, and he is my engineer that I work with and love, and we just have a ball together. I mean, imagine
Wow.
that whole chemistry. So that's where it comes in, and just great people.
Charles, I want to thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey from producing timeless music to inspiring friendships and with legends and your own path of growth and faith. It really is inspiring to us. And your story reminds us that beyond the spotlight, it's the passion, it's definitely the resilience, it's the heart that truly creates a lasting legacy. So we want to thank you so, so much for sharing that with us.
Well, I want to thank you, and I feel like I have two new lifetime friends, and
Yes,
for
you
your
do.
for your vast audience out there, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope you can partake and get to know us even more through our music and our projects. And I'd like to thank so many people, part of my team, my creative team for decades: Bashiri Johnson, Joseph Joubert, Daryl Tukes, and all the great artists I work with: Ronnie Lamar, Benny Marcella, Cuba Gooding, and the main ingredient, of course, my man George Benson, and my heart and soul, O.C. Smith.
Wonderful.
And Charles, we look forward to your incredible and remarkable new birth of your extended career here. And to our audience, if Charles's story inspired you, please share your thoughts and favorite moments on this interview on social media. So also let us know what music or artists you'd like us to spotlight next. Would really help.
Absolutely. Thanks, Geoff. And please stay tuned for upcoming episodes bringing you closer to the voices behind the music, like Charles, and culture shaping our lives. On behalf of Geoff Sandin, and I'm Gail Scott-Key, and we thank you again to Charles Wallert for joining us. You can also visit him online. He's on social media, on Facebook. And before I forget, YouTube. And are there any other social media platforms, Charles, that you want to
No,
give a shout out to? Just those
that
two?
that's it. But if anybody wants to get in touch with me with meanwhile meaningful projects, or if I could help you anyway, go through Gail Scott-Key, and this way introduce Gail and Geoff to everybody. And just to let you know, I do anything if you have a good project. We do not provide budgets, but you don't have to be today's unknown star is tomorrow's star. And if you want to know the person I admire most in the industry today, it's Dua Lipa. She is incredible, way
Oh,
beyond her
yeah.
performance. As you know, I was
Yes,
a guest at Madison Square Garden.
yes.
Incredible person, incredible person.
Love her. And we love you. And thank you so much, Charles, for taking this time again to be with us. And thank you for watching Gail Scott Key's Entertainment Now.
God bless.